everyone, welcome or welcome back here to my channel where I play Planet Zoo. My name is Nissa and today was my plan that I was going to make a beautiful home for the small-clawed otter. But as you know me, I really want to make my animals happy, and if they are happy by living with other animals, then I'm gonna give them that. And I really actually like to try to make habitats that they are usable for more than one animal. I also think that for the guest it will be fun to have multiple animals in the same habitat, so I always want to look at the interspecies enrichment. And the small otter didn't just want one friend, it wanted 5, and that was the Binturong, Bornean Orangutan, Indian Rhinoceros, Malayan Tapir, and the Proboscis Monkey. Well, that's a habitat with 6 animals, this 4. But then I go to the Binturong that wants the other and the tapir, which already is there, but then it also wants the sun bear. And then I just jump back and forth between each of these animals to see how I can make everyone happy. So when I went to the Indian Rhinoceros, they also want the wild water buffalo, which is perfect since it's also one of the newer animal in here. So that was kind of an easy fix to add. So now we add 8 animals. And that was fine until I came to the site for the Malayan Tapir, because it of course wanted many of the other animals here, but it also wanted the Indian elephant. So why not? So we have 9 animals in here, from the very small Asian Small-Clawed Otter to the Indian elephant. 9 animals. And I'm gonna try to make every single one happy today. So I just start by making a water pool. I really wanted to make a nice underwater viewing animal for all of these swimming animals. So I chose to make a tunnel, which I will say, if you don't have the energy and I don't know the word for it, but you need to be forgiving about how it's gonna end out, and you have to be aware that even though something works, then if you make a small change, then it might not. So you will see me work a lot around that. But that's what we're building for today, and because we're building for 9 animals, even though you can see it's a pretty long video, but I couldn't see the logical place to cut it up, so I really wanted to just make one video, and I'm pretty sure that if you want to take a break and come back, then you can do that on your own. I just thought that for me personally, I hate not to get the final outcome at once. So for me, I would always want to have just one long video, but if you want to split it up, I totally understand. But because we have this many animals, I will tell you a little less of each animal than I usually do. And I don't know yet, but if I'm unable to fit all of this info into the video, then there will still be the links in the bottom that I always do, so you can go and read for yourself if you want. But the Asian Small-Clawed Otter is the smallest otter in the world. And it's only weigh around 4.5 kilograms, which would be 10 pounds. They live in southern India, southern China, Southeast Asia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. They live in small streams, rivers, marshes, rice paddies, seacoasts, and in mangroves. And I will say though, if you want to visit some of these areas and see the small-clawed otter, and you think, wow, that's bigger, wow, that's a really big small-clawed otter or something like that, I will say it's probably because it ain't, because they share these areas with the Eurasian otter, the smooth-coated otter, and the hairy-nosed otter. So therefore, if you see an otter in this area, you really can't tell, unless you're one of those people who really can see the difference on an otter and carry pictures and info with you. I'm pretty sure us normal people wouldn't be able to tell the difference, especially because we're most likely gonna see them from afar. This Asian Small-Clawed Otter is extremely clever and actually do talk to each other. Not in full sentences like we do, but they actually have 12 different sounds they can use to communicate with each other. And these different sounds are used for contact, summons, if you want someone to come over, greetings, or just to tell anyone that's something wrong, we have to hide, something like that. And along with these different kind of calls or sounds, they can have some kind of visual gestures. Kind of like if you run into a room and tell everyone that the building is on fire, then you wouldn't only yell it and go, then you would probably wave around with your hands or something like that, and then just the act that the other persons in the room can see you, how you run, would alarm them even more. And the same does these others. Some vocalizations can occur on their own, but some of them will have different kind of gestures alongside with them. On their tail they have a scent glands to disperse scent, like their own personal perfume, if you can say that. It leaves this scent which are described here an intensely musky smell. The scent it leaves behind can tell all of the other others which other were here, what was the other's sex, was it a female or a male, sexual receptivity, and how long time it was since the other in question were here. Besides that, they also use the poop and the urine to spray it out everywhere. They don't just leave it somewhere like we would do and hope it disappears on its own. They kind of want it to be all around so you can smell them, again to tell others both who they are, but also this is my area over here, don't go over here. Of course they live in these big families, but they also live among other otters and they need to know where to not go any further. I just want to jump in here and say every single workshop here, you can see I use 4 workshop items for the corals, and it is the Assortment of Coral by Aristides and the Coral Reef Big by Aristides. I'm so sorry I can't pronounce that. Then we have CC's Aquatic Plant Pack by CC. Then we have Water Plants by Tyson 90. And lastly but not least, we have Coral Reef by Robin, which is actually made by Funky Lemur. Just wanted to mention, and then let's talk a bit more of the Asian Small Otter. The Asian Small-Clawed Otters eat crustaceans, mollusks, fish, insects, amphibians, reptiles, and reptiles. They use their forepaws to hunt, actually, because most of their food will be either in the foliage or down in the bottom of the water. Then they kind of just use their paws to work through the mud or under a stone or where they want to think there may be something to eat, and then feel around where it is and try to catch it with their paws, where most animals would use their teeth, but these others are somehow using these tiny paws to catch their food. When the small-clawed otter needs to eat something with a hard shell, they either just open it with their tiny but somehow strong hands, or they will actually let them out in the sun, and then the sun will force the shell to open, and then the otter can eat what's inside, which I actually think it's really clever for such a small and kind of dumb looking animal. I don't say it ain't cute, but it doesn't look intelligent, but it clearly is. They live in these small family groups, which most of the time will be between 15 and 20 individuals. When they are around 6 months, then they will start to show some kind of sexual activity, but they won't be able to fully reproduce before they are about a year and a half. Then they will mate a lot more in the teenage years. I don't know if anyone knows about that, but between this 1.5 year and 3 years, they will really mate a lot, and then after 3 years, they will still do it, but just not that often. The female is pregnant for 68 to 72 days, and when it's time to give birth, then the female will make a burrow, which I checked the game several times, and the small-clawed otter don't use the burrows. I don't know if it's something's wrong with my specific game, but I thought it was so weird that the small-clawed otter don't use the burrows. I don't know if it's a bug, if it's a mistake, but Frontier, please fix that. But then the female give birth to between 1 and 6 pups. They will have 1 till 2 litters a year, with about 8 to 6 months. It's hard to tell about how effective the female and the male are together to reproduce these pups. But I actually think the most interesting part from this website I used today, which is called National Zoo, it actually was the fun fact part that was the most interesting, because the others groom themselves and each other. I think most people who have seen another have seen them this poking action and scratching action on their own fur, but also on others. But by doing that, they actually put in small bubbles of air, small air pockets of their others. And these small air bubbles actually form a layer between the other itself and the wet fur. So when they dive and they swim around and they catch their food and all of the stuff they do underwater, then themselves will be dry and heated. Because sometimes water is very, very cold. That's also why divers have both a wetsuit and a dry suit, because if you're dry, you don't get that cold. These small-clawed otter have really small ears like most otters, and both their ears and their nostrils are able to close, so when they dive, they don't get any water in there. So let's talk a bit about the Proboscis monkey, and I will say if you check the description below, you can see that I actually added 2 links for the Proboscis monkey, and it's because I first saw a really interesting YouTube video from CFrank1 called True Facts Proboscis Monkey, which was so entertaining and so awesome, but I think I felt afterwards I needed a bit more info about the basics. So I also read an article from National Geographic, so it's both linked below. I will add though, info I have especially from the video is not child appropriate. So if you are a minor, then I will put up a time slot now on the screen, so you know either to skip to that place in the video, or you can just turn off the sound until we reach that point of the video where it will be child appropriate again, because we're gonna talk about some stuff that aren't, so I hope you have skipped by now. So now, the Proboscis monkey lives in the jungle of Borneo, mainly near rivers, coastal mangroves and swamps. They have developed this webbed feet and hands, which help them to swim real fast and actually can't swim from, for instance, crocodiles, which are one of their predators. The male can grow up to 23 kilos, which would be around 50 pounds, even though the females would only weigh about the half. They are a part of the family of monkeys called the odd-nosed colobines. which just is a group of monkeys that some of them have real big nose and some of them have real small noses. Their big nose is most likely a product of natural selection in 2 ways. The size of a male proboscis nose is equal to their body size, which means bigger nose, bigger body, which also is equal to their testicle size, bigger nose, bigger body, bigger testicles, which means bigger testicles, more sperm. And of course, bigger sperm, better chance of pregnancy after mating, but also that they have a bigger penis. The video tells us anyway, which I don't know why the nose will tell them about that, because we're gonna talk about that in a minute. They also have developed big canines, which help them fight with each other, because they lived in these harems, meaning one male and then he have a number between 2 and 7 females and then their offsprings. But sometimes the females find a bigger nosed male in one of the other harems and they want to move over there. To secure your own harem and keep your females, you need to be able to prove that you're the stronger one. Meaning that if one of your females want to go to another male, then you would have to fight him. Here the big nose really helps a lot. For instance, the big nose, big body size. Which mainly means that if you are the smallest male proboscis in the jungle, then you don't want to fight with the biggest one. And the males are extremely verbal, using this really high sound. And the bigger the nose, the more deep the tone they make will be. The females can hear the sound, they don't need to see the monkey. They can just hear the sound and know that there's a bigger proboscis male another place in the jungle and go for that. The same can actually help the old male for that female, because if he can hear already by that the other male is extremely much bigger than himself, then he don't want to fight him at all. But if he can hear the other male's voice and use his own voice and they're roughly the same, then he will go fight the other one, because then they will be roughly the same size and therefore have a fair fight. And because they have these big canines, a fight between 2 male proboscis can be fatal. The Proboscis Monkey, and again, if you're not supposed to hear that, is if you just don't like to hear about this stuff, or if you just are again underage or something like that, skip. Again, I put the time slot on the video again here. Please read it and skip or turn off the speaker for the next couple of seconds, because the proboscis male monkey have a permanent boner. Yeah, which is this pinkish red. I don't want to tell you too much about how it looked. It looked funny, to say the least, but you can Google pictures of it. It's right there. But it have a permanent semi-boner, I would call it. Like, it's out there, but it's not. Most animals keep that kind of close to heart. Keep them either inside some fur or real close up, so it's protected when you go around and stuff like that. Not the proboscis monkey, it's just hanging there, semi-erect 24/7. But you know, if you see it 100% erect, then it means, and I know what you think, but no, it means that he's ready for a fight. And that's kind of the last warning point between male proboscis, that you can see my dick is hard. Now what you gonna do? sorry, I'm 5 inside. I just, it's too much for me to be grown up about. But really, it's mean. You can see my dick is big, it's erect, go away. And that may make the other one go away if he's like, okay, that's big, I'm going away. But it can also be like the other one think it doesn't matter, or it again, roughly the same, so now we fight and one of us will probably die. So, that's pretty much all I have to say. I will say if you want to know more about this sex life of the proboscis, and also he also mentioned something about the humans if you want to go down that rabbit hole. Again, this video from C. Frank 1, True Facts, Proboscis Monkey, see it, it's funny. And he's able to say it without laughing, so if you want that, that's a rabbit hole for you, definitely. Otherwise, if you want more boring but factual info, then you can go to this article from Natural Geographic. And let's see if we can press just a tiny bit of info of the sun bear in this video. To be able to speak a bit about the sun bear, I watched a YouTube video called 14 Reasons Sun Bears Are Your New Favorite Animal, bears about the house, BBC Earth. And it is from BBC Earth's own YouTube channel. They live in the tropical forest in Southeast Asia. They are really small for bears. Actually, they are only a 10th of the size of a polar bear, even though they still have the same size of teeth. So don't get close to the teeth of a sun bear. They have the largest tongue of any bear on the planet, which is longer than 30 centimeters, which would be just below 1 feet. They have really large paws, which are naked beneath, kind of like humans. And then they have these extremely strong curved claws, which make them the best climbers of the bear family. And they really have to be the best climbers, because the sun bear don't only climb trees for fun or to hide or to hunt something or look for food. They actually live up there, where they make kind of a nest like the birds, but just on a very much bigger scale. Their skin is very loose to protect them from predators, so I guess they will be really hard to grab on when the skin just slips off the fat and meat of the bear. They are extremely important from the health of the forest, because they help to spread seeds, pest control, and nutrient cycling, which they don't elaborate on. I will say this video is really cute and really made really well, but it is pictures of really amazing animals combined with small text boxes on top of the picture. So they don't elaborate much in this video, but I will say if you need a little cutie view and are ready to get your heart broken, then really watch this video. Because the habitat of the sun bear is really getting destroyed, and they have actually already lost over 60% of the territory they had before. They are also hunted. Both their gallbladders and paws are being sold on the black market, but also cubs are sold alive just as a nice little pet to have, which is one of the worst reasons we have. We have talked a lot on this channel about different reasons why we lose animals in the wild, but the thought that we lose them in the wild just because some rich person want them to be at home with them, and again it's the cubs that's being sold. So I feel that they maybe just give it a cub, and when it gets too big, too noisy, too boring to have at some point, then they just get rid of it. Maybe kill it, maybe sell it, I don't know. None of us can know what's actually happening with these cubs that get either taken away from their smart mothers or their mothers get murdered. And of course I also need to talk a bit about the wild water buffalo in this video. Of course it is one of our newest members, and they definitely have a place in my zoo here and in this specific habitat. The information I have about the wild water buffalo is from Animalia. And again we have one of these wonderful animals where the Latin name actually is better than the non-Latin name, Bubalus arni. It does, however, also have a lot of other names for it. We have the Asian buffalo, the Asian wild water buffalo, and the Asiatic buffalo. It is endangered, even though it is the largest bovine out there, and it lives in Southeast and South Asia. It lives in the tropical forest, normal forest, grassland, and savanna, as long as it can be around fresh water, which for instance could be wetlands or a swamp. Really an animal that doesn't need that much when you think about it. There are about 4,000 individuals left in the wild at this point. However, an estimate is about that only 2,500 of them is mature. And we kind of need them to be in a reproductive age to be able to really get this species a head start in the world. As I said, it was the largest wild bovine out there, and it weighs from 700 kilos to about 1,200. The females are though the smaller one, and the males are much bigger. To translate it into pounds, that would be between 1,500 and 2,700 pounds. They are about the height of a grown man, and their horns can actually be just as long. Both the males and females have horns, though the female's horns are a lot longer, but the male's horns are much. The adult males live in bachelor herds, which would be up to 10 individuals, though the old males prefer sometimes to live more solidarity lives, so they will just walk around on their own. The females will live in female herds that would be most likely between 10 and 20 individuals, but can be over 100. They mate in October and November, and the female are pregnant for 11 months. The mother cow can give birth to one calf a year, and the calf would be adult at the age of 2. The wild water buffalo have a lot of reason for being endangered, and if we just forget about the predators, because of course they are there, but a lot of reasons is also parasites and diseases, usually transmitted by livestock, hunting, loss of habitat, interbreeding of wild buffalo, that would be either with the domesticated buffalo or the feral buffalo. And then of course they will have to fight for food and water with the domesticated buffalo, and of course the human would most likely be on the side of their own livestock. Just to end this on a more cherry way than most, I normally always end the animals with the bad stuff. Here in the bottom, or not the bottom, but recently down the side here, same side from Animalia, they have 5 fun facts for kids, and I just thought I would read them out loud. This buffalo belongs to the bovine tribe, along with African buffalo, bison, yak, and certain species of white cattle. White water buffalo are the largest member of the bovine tribe. Fun fact 2. Wild water buffalo is the national animal of the Philippines, and it's called carabao there. Fun fact 3. One of their nicknames is Living Tractor of the East. Fun fact 4. Famous cheese mozzarella is made from milk from the wild water buffalo. Fun fact 5. Wild water buffalo living in tropical and subtropical forests spend most of their day in muddy waters of the area. But that was all I had about the wild water buffalo. I will again link this website below so you can read for yourself if you want to. And also feel free to Google every single animal we talk about here and other animals, because a lot of animals are a lot more fun when you actually know stuff about them. So I just wanted to take a small break from the animals. You know I have much more to say about the animals in here, but I wanted to take a break and give you a little more info about the habitat. As you saw, I started with the water viewing area, which would be the first part of the habitat that the guests are going to see, so it was important to me that it was beautiful. You did see that I had to make the path down there a bit lower than I initially intended, so the guests won't be able to see as much of the beautiful corals that I hoped they would. As you saw when I started the waterfall, I made a second pool a level higher to make able to have somewhere to take the water to the waterfall from. I intentionally chose to do that because I feel like it would make sense to have it up there, and at this point no guests are going to see it. But I kind of have an idea about I'm going to use it as a water source for something else also. So it just made sense for me to have the pool up there, and it also made sense in a water filtering system that you have the I don't know if they are called vents or what they are, but in the bottom of the original pool there was these vents where the water goes down, and then they would go through a cleaning area and then up to the top pool, and then go down the waterfall, down to the other pool, and around, so you would have that kind of circulation of clean water, or dirty to clean water. I did make a mistake on the waterfall, which is so difficult to go in and fix, so I chose not to. This is in relation to the way I chose to use these waterfall pieces instead of the complete waterfall. If I have used the complete waterfall, I wouldn't be able to make the same effect with the stones as I did here, but instead I accidentally took this 10 meters instead of the 5 meters middle part. So when we go through the underwater tunnel, you can actually see the water from this midsection down there, which would be really bad if you could see water fuzzing like that in real life, but in here I know it's just because I made a mistake, so we're gonna pretend that it isn't there. I really wanted to be able to give the guest a complete experience of seeing these animals, both from the bottom of the water but also from the top. It didn't make sense to me that much to have a viewing area in terrain height, cause most of these animals are real, not most of them, some of them are really small, but some of them are real big, and you kind of need some kind of height to be able to see the elephant and the rhino from a really good angle. So I made this building with the staircase, so you have the normal terrain height viewing area where it would be easy to see the smaller animals, and it would be easier to see the animals feeding, and then you can go up on top and where you get give much better view of the entire habitat, but also just of the, again, rhino, Indian elephant, maybe also some of the other animals, and you would be able to see the climbing animals in action, which I personally thought was a good choice. I chose to decorate the viewing area really basic, and really keeping in mind that it was important that it was pretty from the viewer's point, but most zoos don't care how the habitats look from the inside. It's important it's pretty for the viewer, but it's not that important that the animal thinks it's pretty. That's why I actually chose just to make a concrete building and don't do anything about the facade, because none of the guests would be able to see it. I did think of two very different ways to making the animals indoor area. For once I thought about making kind of a wooden hideout, kind of covered by the forest part of the habitat, but then I kind of thought, why not make just a massive building that you can use for multi-purposes. For instance, I have no keyboard hut or surgery or personnel room in this particular area, so it would make it easy to kind of hide them in here. And then also, as you can see, I actually chose here to make a secondary wall so I can add more animals on the other side in the same building. I always think it makes sense to make buildings that you can use different parts of, because you would do that in real life. And especially during the winter, the keepers would really appreciate to be able to go from habitat to habitat, or from keeper hut to habitat, without actually having to go outside in the cold. Then I added this point out here, which is mainly kind of a way I tried to make it a bit more realistic. So I wanted to make an area where you can either separate an animal, or if you need to move an animal out of the habitat, then in here you can actually get it or fixate it because you needed a doctor appointment or something like that, without actually having to go out in the habitat and shoot it with tranquilizers. So here we have this part where I make two kind of big doors, one here and one into the habitat, and then you could like kind of get an animal in here, place some food. Maybe if you know a doctor coming in the next week, then you already now start to rehearse with the animal what it have to do to get in here. And I chose to make this really thick metal barrier doors because I wanted this to be able to be usable for the Indian elephant and the rhino. Of course also the other animals, which is why I add a little fence in the bottom to be able to keep the others in, so they couldn't just run out this way. Even though you probably wouldn't use this to try to kind of hunt one. Maybe if you got one that it injured, it could go out here and live for a few weeks before it could be reintroduced. But you wouldn't be. It wouldn't make sense to catch an otter in here. That it would be easier just to have like a small carrier to put it in, like you would do with a cat or a dog. Because in here it's actually wouldn't be catched at all. It would be able to just run around. And then I chose to keep this door open and the other one closed, so the animals would be able to just go in and out all the time, so they would kind of be used to being able to go in there, so when you open they're not too afraid of it. As you probably have noticed, I again chose to make as many windows as possible. Again, animals are smelly, especially rhinos. I remember when I was in school, I was allowed for 1 week to go and work in a zoo as a part of my schooling. And one of the days I worked at the rhinos, and I told you, when I came home, my father was in the other end of the house, and the first thing he said, he just yelled through the house, "Take a bath," because he could smell it on me. And a lot of animals really smell badly, especially because they are going to poop both indoor and outdoor. But the fresh air flowing through will help with a lot of the smell. So therefore I always use windows when it is possible. But we also have animals that climbs in here, so therefore I made sure to have these metal barriers in every single window. Even though some of the windows go out to their own habitat, but I just didn't want to have an animal sitting up there at any point. I made sure both to have a water cleaning system in here, but also a heat regulation system for the water. Again, we are in a temperate zoo, and a lot of these animals don't like the cold, so therefore I thought it would make really good sense. And then we also add heat generators in here, which makes this habitat extremely expensive, even though you have a lot of animals. So in that way it's less expensive to have more animals on less space. But all of this heat this habitat would need to keep every single animal hot would cost a lot. So keep that in mind. You don't want to start out with a habitat like this. You would like to have a habitat less expensive in the beginning. So let's talk about the Bornean Orangutan. And this article I used here is from the Orangutan Project. I will say though, it's not the most informative site, but if you feel like you want to do a different, this site has you covered. you can donate, you can adopt an orangutan, you can support, you can visit these beautiful places where they help the orangutan, you can volunteer, you can do so many different things on this site to help. And that's why I chose to use this website, even though it's not the most informative, but we still learned a bit. The orangutan is an ape, not a monkey. I'm a bit confused about that because monkey in Danish means ape. So I'm not completely sure about the difference between an ape and a monkey, but the orangutan is an ape. And it actually has 97% of the same DNA as we do, which actually means that we're pretty close related. So next time you think someone is a bit weird, then you look at the orangutan and try to confirm who is the weird one. There's quite a bit of a difference of the size of the male and the female. The male can grow up to 1.5 meters, that would be 4 feet, while the female only will be about 1.2 meters, being 3 feet. Even though they are not the tallest animal, they actually are a lot larger on the other side. Not that they are particularly fat, but if you stretch out the arms of an orangutan, it will be 2 meters from fingertip to fingertips, and that would be about 6 feet. The males weigh between 93 and 130 kilos, that would be 205 to 286 pounds, and the females only weigh around 48 to 55 kilos, that would be 105 to 121 pounds. The lifespan of orangutan is about 60 years, but they may be able to get even older. The mom would be pregnant for around 8.5 months, and she would usually only get 1 child, but sometimes she are able to give birth to 2. These children will be adult at the age of 6. The orangutan in general are endangered, and within 10 years the Sumatran orangutan will probably be extinct if everything continues as it does now. And the Bornean orangutan, which is the one we have in the game, may just follow a few years later. And that's why these 2 specific subspecies of orangutan are critical endangered. The orangutan isn't just endangered for itself, but again we talked about it before, but we have the deforestation and clearing of the land for pulp paper and palm oil. And even the small part of the forest that still stands are tormented by droughts and forest fires. And just to make it even worse, the orangutan is also hunted, both for the meat, but, and again my heart breaks here, the mother orangutans are killed so the babies can be sold on the black market. We talked about this with the sun bear, and we are just the same place here. It isn't fair to kill a mom to take their baby and sell them as you see fit. You don't need a beautiful animal like this at home, but we need them in nature. I will say though, this site, which again you can help the orangutan through this site, so I really think you should go down in the description and click on the link. But it says here, over 150 rehabilitated orangutans have been released into the forest area to date via the top supported Bukti Tigapulu Sumatran Orangutan Reintroduction Project. When the males reach maturity, their cheek will kind of swallow up and they will get these cheek pads. They don't really need them to do anything, but apparently the females of the orangutans find a big cheek pad very attractive. Just to go back to the game for a second or two, It is important when you have this many animals in a habitat, you should be aware that you are unable to make every single animal happy on every single point. But I do go back and pick another animal and another animal and another animal every time I change the terrain or the enrichment or the foliage. Every time I go back and forth to make sure that I can make most of the animal happy with everything. And if there's one animal I'm unhappy to make happy with the terrain, then I focus extra on giving them the foliage they want. So it's maybe all of them are 90% happy instead of one of them are 0% happy. Now I would like to talk a bit about the Binturong, and to be honest, I never heard about this animal before I started playing Planet Zoo. So there's definitely one thing there Planet Zoo is very good for. I'm using this site called A to Z Animals. It's pretty much just a place where you can look up any animals, and I'm pretty sure they have them all. I can't confirm because I don't know them all, but they have at least 1,000 animals in here, and it's really good for easy lookups. By visiting this site, you should know a bit about it. So when I go to the side of the Binturong, then we have a picture, then we have a bear, then we got some short facts about the kingdom it lives in, and it's a mammalia class, carnivore order, family Viverridae, and probably a lot of things you don't understand because I don't, and I don't assume that anyone understand it. Probably some will, but I don't. Then we get further down the side, and then we have again just a lot of quick answers. Prey, fruit, insects, birds, name of young, cub, group behavior, solitary, fun fact, also known as an Asian bear cat. And here you get some facts you will understand, but also average litter size too. And if you don't know what to compare it to, then it won't tell you anything. Just like lifestyle, nocturnal / crepuscular, something like that. And I know nocturnal, I don't know the other ones, so unless you know, you can look them up in here and get the answers, then this site won't help you that much. You can roll further down the side, and then you get into more text about the animal, and it's primarily this part I use. I use the top side for the short facts, but when I want to know more about the animal's behavior, fun things about it, how they live, how they hunt, stuff like that, then you really need to go a long way down the side before you find that, but it is there. The link is in the description, so you can just click it and go crazy and look for every single animal you know. And if you find an animal that isn't there, then please tell me, because I would like to know. The Binturong lives in the dense forest of Southeast Asia. It has 9 subspecies, which pretty much look the same, but you will be able to tell them apart depending on their size and all where they are located. A grown Binturong will be between 60 and 96 centimeters, and that would be 24 to 38 inch. A grown Binturong would weigh between 10 and 14 kilos, and that would be between 22 and 31 pounds. It is recognized by the long snout and even longer tail, and these really sharp claws they are partially able to pull back. When they climb in the trees, they are actually able to rotate its hind legs backwards, which will help their claws on their back feet to get a much stronger grip. The female is pregnant for 92 days, and when it's time to give birth, she will make a nest on the ground in the thick foliage, where she can find a place that are shelter from the weather, but also kind of out of sight for the predators. She will give birth to 1, 2, or 3 small cubs, and when they are 1 year old, they will be the size of an adult, but they won't be completely adult before they are 2 till 3 years old. In nature, they live about 10 to 25 years. They are unable to leap between trees like many climbing animals do, so instead they would have to climb down the tree and move over to the next tree and climb up that tree to move from one tree to another. But trees aren't the only place they like to be. They also like to swim and dive as well, which I never seen in Planet Zoo. I'm not sure if they are able to do that, but I haven't seen it. They mostly live solitary, however, sometimes they form small groups that mainly would be mom, dad, and the cubs. However, when they form these small groups, then the grown female will always be the dominant entity of the group. They have scent glands, kind of like skunks, beneath their tail, but instead of smelling real bad, which they can't if you make them mad, however, normally it would just smell like popcorn. And again, if you don't trust me, look up this site, link is in the description. And supposedly the cubs do as well when they are newborn. The Binturong is very vocal, as many other animals we talked about, and they both use their voice to communicate with the other Binturong, but also to warn off other species. Their voice can go from a clicking sound when they seem happy to a high-pitched wail when they are mad. So try to keep them happy. In nature, they are predators, but they are also the prey. They live same places as tigers and snakes, and they are able to take a Binturong on. Even though birds and smaller carnivores won't be able to take on a grown Binturong, they will be able to take the smaller ones. However, what is even worse for the Binturong is the humans, which I'm sad to say, but it's true for many of our favorites. And here I will say I read this up from the website. Again, link is in the description below if you want to check it out. The Binturong has been caught for their meat, captured and sold into pet trade, subjected to vast habitat loss, mainly in form of deforestation, and is also trapped and caught to be sold into the Chinese medicine market, where a number of their body parts are used in traditional remedies. If you wonder which educational board I used, they are taken from the workshop and they are called Aquatic and Various. They are made by Sista and the link is in the description along with everything else. I'm so sorry I don't have the time to talk about the Indian Rhino, Malayan Tapir and the Indian Elephant. So hopefully I will get time to talk about them another time. However, I have still linked a few websites below where you can read a lot of stuff about them because they are really beautiful animals and they do deserve their time in the spotlight. For the Indian Rhinoceros, I added an article from Britannica, which always is an amazing website. For the Indian Elephant, I used A to Z Animals again, link is in the description. And for the Malayan Tapir, I used tapirs.org again, which I didn't use today, but I did use them when I talked about the bloody tapir that we have in South America. And again, a really good site. I used all 3 sites before. I read these articles and I loved them. So now there's really not much left to say. I really hope you will enjoy this cinematic. I really hope you like this habitat. If you want to try yourself to make such a big habitat with that many animals, please go for it. It is more difficult, but also kind of more rewarding. So you will get a lot more cinematics than you usually do, and I hope you enjoy them. So that was all I have for you today. I really hope if you watch this long, I really hope you think I deserve a like, and otherwise subscribe and turn on the bell of notification so you know the next time I upload a video. I really hope to see you again either in the comments below or in the next video. Bye!